the broadcasting as well. Okay, perfect. So let's start the session. So to learn Java, so we all are here to learn Java, right? So we have seen the power of Java in the theory video, so where it is used and all those things. Okay, Hussein still can't hear us. Okay. Okay, so the softwares which we need here is two softwares, right? One is JDK, and the another one is Eclipse. So first of all, let's discuss why do we need all these softwares? Can we do without this? And the answer is yes. And the answer is no. What I'm saying, or the answer is no. So we all want to be developers, right? So we are not users, we are developers. So when you say you want to develop something, you want to develop a software, and that software will be used someone else. So we have also talked about the power of Java, that Java is platform. So it is platform independent, right? Independent. So yeah, so Java is platform independent. There's one more feature. Java is secure, right? So main concern the main concern what I'm having here is the platform independence thing. In fact, security is something which is very subjective. But let's talk about platform independence. So let me just ask this question to you, Hemant. Before that, Hussein, can you hear us now? Okay, perfect. So yeah, Hemant, what do you think when I say platform independence? What it means in general? Okay, okay. So what you're saying is when you write a software for one machine, the same software can be done. The same software can be done on different machines, right? Okay, perfect. So what this platform independence means is you can write this software. So you can write this software once. So that is write once, and you can run it anywhere. So Java goes with this concept of write once and run anywhere, and that concept is also called as WARA. So that's WARA concept where so WARA simply stands for write once, run anywhere. So you can write the software once, and then you can run that software anywhere. Does that mean if I use another language, will we cannot achieve this? And the answer is no. If you change your language, you cannot achieve this. Because what happens, whenever you want to learn a new language, we all learn something called as keywords about that language. Let's go in this way. So how many of you here understand Telugu? Okay, so Pooja understand Telugu, great. And Hemant, okay, so you are from Andhra, right? Okay, great. What about you, Aditya? No, of course not, right? It's very easy to learn other languages. Compare if you want to learn Hindi, if you want to learn Marathi, it's very easy to learn. The moment you want to learn any southern language, it's a big pain, right? But Hussein, you are there in Hyderabad, right, from a long time, so you might be hearing about some Telugu words there. Anyway, you don't have a choice; you have to hear those words. So let's say if you want to learn that language, Hussein, or maybe Aditya, both. So let's say if you want to learn a Telugu language, so how will you start? What's your approach? What will be your approach? Okay, so you will run this. You will learn this script. Okay, so let me tell you my thing. I'm born and brought up in Mumbai, so I don't understand Telugu. I mean, I understand Telugu. I can understand all the words in Telugu, but the moment I want to talk, so that's where I find it difficult to communicate. So I'm not that fluent in Telugu, even being a South Indian, even being from Hyderabad. But yeah, so I don't know how to write Telugu, but I can speak, I can talk a bit. So let's say if you want to learn Aditya the Telugu language, how will you start? You will not start by writing, right? I mean, I know, but I will not start from writing. What I will do is I will talk to some person who knows Telugu and I will learn some specific words. Now, normally, when you want to learn a new language, we always start with how to say had your lunch or had your dinner. So, what do you say? So, yeah, the basic words, right? So, normal in day to day life, which we use. So, we learn all those things. Example, if your crush is South Indian, if your crush is Telugu, of course, you have to learn Telugu language, right? So, you will say how to say I love you, how to say and all those things, right? So let's say if I say something here, Aditya, if I'm saying something to you, so Hemant and Pooja just control your emotions because I know you know these things, but let's Aditya answer this question. So Aditya, when I say annam tinnava, what it means? That's what I want here. Okay, so let me just answer this. We can take help of Hemant here. So Hemant, what was that? Okay, so that's perfect. So did you have your dinner, right? So when I say annam, it means food. Aditya, annam means food. Tinnava is simply means had you eaten your or something like that. So had you had your dinner, something in that way. So dinner is you can say annam and then had is tinnava. Okay. So next time when I say Aditya, next time when I say annam bagundena, annam bagundena. Okay, what about you, Hemant? Just help it out. Yeah, how is food? So that means whenever I say annam, it means food, right, Aditya? So whenever I say annam, it means food. So whenever in my sentence, whenever I say annam, it means food, right? So you have learned that one word now. So whenever you learn any language, we always learn about food. Okay, sorry, what I'm saying, not food, but we learn about keywords. Hussein, your mic is on. If you says, if you yeah, so you can mute yourself there. You can mute your mic if you're not saying something. Whenever you want to say, you can just unmute yourself and you can continue. Because there's lots of background noise coming from your side. Okay. You can find an option of mute there. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so what I'm saying is, yeah, I forgot where was I. I was talking about yeah. So whenever you want to learn any language, we all first learn the keywords, right? So some important keywords, and then once you are done with your keywords, what we go for is the grammar. So learning just keyword doesn't make any sense, right? You have to also know where to say what. In the same way, whenever you learn any language, you have to first learn the keywords, and then you have to learn about the grammar. Now, let's say if you are learning a C language, or if you're making a software in a C language, what we do is we write a code. So in C language or C++, we first write the code, then we compile the code. Now, what it means? Let's say if I want to talk to Aditya and if I don't know how to speak English, what we'll do is I will talk in Telugu language with Hemant, and Hemant will translate that for you, Aditya. Right? So that translation is done with the help of compiler. So Hemant is our compiler here. So I'm writing a code, and Hemant will compile that. And what Hemant will give you is the obj file, which is your object file, or maybe you can say directly exe. So whenever you work with C or C++, we have to first write the code, then we have to compile the code, and what you get is exe. Now that exe is very specific to that particular hardware. Example, let's say if in this machine, the current machine which I'm using, if in this machine, if I write a code, if I compile the code, if I create a exe file, this will work only on my machine. The moment I change my machine, this will not work. Okay, it's because when you create an exe file, it is very dependent on the hardware. as the hardware changes, you have to change. You have to again take that code. Let's say if you have a second machine now, you have to take the code, you have to compile the code, and what you will get is exe. Every time you change your machine, you have to compile your code for that particular machine. Now that doesn't make sense, right? Example, if you want to get a new software, let's say if you want to buy a new game, let's say if you want to buy a NFS game, so that NFS company will come to your home, they will take your desktop and they will type the entire source code and they will compile the code. That doesn't make any sense, right? So what we should do is we should write the code only once, and that the same code should be able to run anywhere. Now, since this exe runs on hardware, that's what make it a platform independent language. So whenever you run a exe on the hardware, it makes it platform dependent. What if I want to run my exe not on hardware but on a software? Now that software, so initially it was a machine, but what if you create a virtual machine? So instead of running it on a physical machine, if you can run that code on the virtual machine, our job is done, right? Now, how it will be done is because all the hardware, all the OS will use the same virtual machine. In the entire world, if everyone is using the same virtual machine, of course your code will run anywhere, right? You're getting what I'm trying to say, everyone? Okay. So that's where the concept of virtual machine came into picture. Now this virtual machine, which is a software basically. Virtual machine is not a hardware, it's a software which will act like a hardware. So it's a software which behaves like a hardware. Now this software, which is your virtual machine, is specifically built for Java, and that's why it is called as Java Virtual Machine, which means if you want to run Java code, if you want to run your Java software, you need Java Virtual Machine. So if you build a software using Java, you can run it anywhere, provided that machine has JVM. If you have a hardware, if you have a system where you don't have a JVM, your software will not work. Example, let's say if I write a code for this machine, the current machine, and if I change my OS to, let's say, Windows or Linux, it will work, right? But my question is, okay, that means Java is platform independent, right? If I write the code once, we can run it anywhere. But the question is, if I write a code for this machine, and if I want to run that code on my Android phone, will it work? I have this question for everyone. Will it work? Why not? Because Java says write it once, run anywhere, right? Exactly. So we don't have JVM on Android phones. If you can get the JVM on Android phone, then we can run Java software on Android phone as well, right? So whenever you have JVM, only on those machines we can run Java code. Now, when I say Java, I'm not talking about simply Java. I'm talking about J2SE, which stands for Java 2 Standard Edition. So if you want to run this code, then only you need JVM. What if I say your Android OS is also built using Java, but we don't have a JVM there, right? How can you run? How can you run a Java software? In fact, whenever you make an Android application, it's basically a Java language itself. In fact, when I work on Android, we write Java code only. I will show you that once. If I will open my Android Studio to show how Android code looks like. Even if you see that everything is Java, then question arises: why do we? Uh, even if you don't have a JVM, how can you run that Java code there? What do you think? But Pooja, anything from your side? What do you think? If you don't have a JVM in Android phones, how can you run Android applications which is built on Java? Pooja, you there? Okay, no idea. So that's very simple actually. Uh, the thing is, okay, it's not actually simple, it's difficult. The thing is, in Android, we don't have JVM, but we have something called as DVM, which stands for Dalvik Virtual Machine. So Dalvik Virtual Machine is like a mini JVM. So it's not exactly JVM, but it supports some code of Java. Now that code is specific to Android. Okay, you cannot run normal Java code on Android, but Android has its own Java codes or own Java flow. So your Android apps actually works on DVM, which is a mini JVM. So it's a mini JVM, which is Java Virtual Machine. Okay, now what next? So your Java simply says you can write the software once and you can run anywhere, provided that machine has JVM. Now luckily, all the OS, all desktop OS and server OS, they have JVM. Even if you talk about Windows has JVM inbuilt. Mac has JVM inbuilt. Ubuntu has JVM inbuilt. I mean, all Linux flavors. Hey, what's that? I've never opened this. Yeah. So Ubuntu has JVM inbuilt. Then we have Solaris, which is from Sun Microsystem. Solaris has JVM inbuilt. So all these machines has JVM inbuilt. So the moment you install Windows, the moment you install Ubuntu, you get JVM by default, which means you can download the Java software from the internet and you can run it. But those things are for users, right? For normal users. We are developers. Now, since we are developers, we are responsible to write the code, we are responsible to compile the code, and we are responsible to run the code. See, to run the code, we have JVM. But how do you type the code and how do you compile the code? So when you want to type the code, we need a editor, right? And normally we can use any editor. We can use Notepad. I'm using Sublime here for this thing. We can also use Notepad++. There are different kind of software, right? So if you want to write Java software or Java code, what you need is an editor. That editor can be Notepad, it can be Sublime. But then say you want to compile it. So the first step is very easy. You want to type the code, so we got editor. You want to run the code, you have JVM. How do you compile a code? That's a tricky part here. How do you compile a code? Now we cannot compile the code inside Notepad, right? Notepad is a very lame software. So we need a compiler who can compile Java. So any guess which is the software which is required here? Exactly. So we need something called as JDK. JDK stands for Java Development Kit. So Java Development Kit has something called as, which we actually need here, which is your compiler. And the name of the compiler is, the name of your compiler is Java C. So Java C is a compiler which can compile your Java code. Make sense, everyone? Okay. So yeah, so we have JDK here, which is Java Development Kit. We have compiler, which is Java C. Now the question arises, where do you run Java C? So Java C basically is a console-based tool, which means if you want to run Java C, what you need is CMD. So normally we run Java C command on CMD. Now CMD if you're using Windows, for Linux or Mac we have to use terminal. So that means to learn Java you need a software which is dedicated. So you need a notepad, you need JDK to compile it, and you need CMD where you can run your Java C. Now, you might have heard from people that Java, why they are not learning Java for a very simple reason. It's difficult to understand, difficult to remember, and difficult to work with, right? The reason why they find it difficult is they start learning Java, and whenever, it doesn't matter which trainer they follow or which tutorials they watch, everyone starts with command prompt, right? The first code you have to write is on command prompt. And that's where people find it difficult to work with, because you have to type the code in the notepad, you have to compile the code using Java C, and you have to run the code using JVM. That's a big headache. So we need editor to type the code, we need compiler to compile the code, and we need some place, we need a console where you can run, where you can where you can see the output. So instead of using three different softwares, what if you can use one simple software which is your IDE? So Aditya, IDE stands for? Okay, no answer. So anyone? IDE stands for what? Okay, perfect. So IDE stands for, it is Integrated Development Environment. So so IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, which simply means that you can run, you can have editor, compiler, and console in one single software. Now, which is the best IDE to work with? There are lots of IDEs available for Java, not one. That's one of the problem. Since you don't have one software to work with, we get confused which one to work for. So anything you have worked on earlier, guys? Pooja, Hussein, Hemant, Aditya? Okay. So one IDE is IntelliJ IDEA. Then one is Eclipse. So Pooja and Aditya, they have worked on Eclipse. That's perfect. Okay, so we have some more. We have NetBeans. Then we have what else? What else? What else? Yeah, we have these three popular, right? In fact, we have some more. We have JDeveloper, we have BlueJ, we have Edit Plus. We have lots of IDEs available. Now, which one is best? Now, when it comes to academic, so let's say colleges or university, they normally use NetBeans because it is promoted by Oracle. All the, these two are very famous, Eclipse and IntelliJ. NetBeans is also famous. The only problem is only it is famous in academic, not in industry. In industry, these two are famous. One is Eclipse and one is IntelliJ. Now, which is more popular? In terms of free, if in terms of money, if you want to use an IDE for free, we can use Eclipse. In fact, Eclipse is one of the best IDE available in the market, which is for free. So most of the people, in fact, I would say 70 to 75% all the developers, they use Eclipse. Does that mean Eclipse is better than IntelliJ? Not exactly. One of the best IDE available is IntelliJ. Okay, then hold on. I'm saying best for both. One of the best IDE available is IntelliJ, but one of the best IDE freely available is Eclipse. So Eclipse is free and IntelliJ is not free. In fact, IntelliJ has two versions. One is community version, which is free, and the another one is the enterprise version, which is not free. You have to pay around a very less amount. Only you have to pay $700 for 1 year. That's it. Hussein, don't tell me you bought it. How they are using a community version. Yeah, that's actually very expensive. That is very, very, very expensive. Then question arises, who would pay for that? I mean, I would never pay for that. If somebody even tried to sell that product to me, I would never buy IntelliJ. Then who buys IntelliJ? And the answer is industries, companies. Employees they don't buy it. Companies buy it. So example, if I'm working for, let's say if I work for maybe JP Morgan, so JP Morgan would buy the license from IntelliJ, and they don't buy one license, they buy some bunch of license from IntelliJ, and they give this license to all the developers because it increases the productivity of the developer. It gives you some inbuilt tools to work with. See, no one wants to write a software on Notepad and run it on the compiler, right? So they want something using which they can get the output as soon as possible. So they invest on the software as well. Okay, but the free one is Eclipse. So Eclipse is free. It is very powerful. It is very flexible. When I say flexible, what I mean by that is, let's say in future, if you want to work with, let me show you how Eclipse looks like. First of all, let me show you IntelliJ. How? I've changed my laptop, so I don't have IntelliJ here. Okay, let me show you how Eclipse looks like. So this is the logo for Eclipse. So let me use Eclipse 6.0, 4.6.0. So the latest version of Eclipse is Neon. In fact, we also got Oxygen now, but that's into a testing phase. So I always use the second last version because the latest version is always it will always have some bugs. Now, whenever you open Eclipse, this is what you get. You get a they will ask you for a place. Yeah, so it will ask you for so it will ask you for the location where you want to store all your project. So I would create one more folder here called as Duke. So that's our current the batch name. Okay, I guess the font is very small, right? Let's just change the font size. Okay, is it perfect? The font size now? Okay, so let me just say okay. So it will launch Eclipse with that particular folder. So all our projects will belong to one particular folder, which will be easier to track in future. Okay, so now this is your how Eclipse looks like. Okay, so if I go to Eclipse and if I say about Eclipse, you can see that's the logo, right? Now Eclipse is it the only IDE available? We have IntelliJ, we have NetBeans, right? But we also have STS. Can you see that? There's a pop-up of STS there. If I click on STS and if I open STS, if I go to about STS, which is Spring Tool Switch, this one is also built on Eclipse. That means in future, let's say if you don't want to use Eclipse, if you want to use STS, you're not using any new software. You are using a Eclipse flavored software. So STS is a flavor of Eclipse. The advantage is if you want to work on Spring framework in future, so this is something which we need, STS. In fact, I also have a software called as JBoss Developer, and JBoss Developer is also built on Eclipse. So if you learn Eclipse, you can use any other software. Just click on OK. Okay. Now what next? So this is how your Eclipse looks like. Now in Eclipse, the point to remember is, you can see there's a button here. Can you see that? Open perspective, everyone. Hey, hi Navnit. Yeah, your mic is on. There's some background noise coming from your side. Oh, thank you. By the way, nice DP, Navnit. Okay, so what I'm saying is, yeah, so you can see there's an option here called as open perspective. Now, what this perspective means? Now, since we are working with core Java, I mean J2SE, we need to work with Java perspective. This one. But let's say in future, so let's say in future, if you want to work with advanced Java, then you have to select Java EE perspective. The moment you change your perspective, the options will change. Example, by default, we are in Java EE perspective. That's why you can see the default there, right? Now, since we are in Java EE perspective, you're getting all these options. You're getting properties window, you're getting servers. So this is something which you only get in Java EE perspective. Now, since we don't need any server here, we can change the perspective to Java. Click on OK, and you can see this will change now. And we got only Java doc and declaration. There's no server now. So since we are working with core Java, we don't need any Java EE perspective. So that's your Eclipse looks like. That's how your Eclipse looks like. Okay, perfect. Now let's say if I want to do our first code. Any guess what is our first code? So it doesn't matter which language you learn, the first code we always write is hello world. Okay, perfect. So why you think why we learn hello world first? Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's perfect. It's easy. So first of all, it's easy. Uh, Aditya is saying that's what the first code was written. Maybe, but that's not the reason why we use hello world. The reason is okay. So yeah. So in your perspective, Aditya, it was the networking. So when the network was built for the first time between two servers, they sent a message called as hello world. That's why they're going for hello world. But why we have to run this code is because if this code works, you will get a confidence. Okay, because when you learn a new language or new things, at least the first code should run, right? It doesn't matter what about the future, but the first code should work. Second, if that works, you can verify, okay, my system is working. In future, if anything goes wrong, that's your mistake. Or yeah, that's one of the perspective. Getting introduced with Java by saying hello. So yes, you can say hello to Java. But can I write a code directly here? The problem is, since we are working with IDE, whenever you work with IDE, you have to create a project. Now, it doesn't matter which technology you're working with, maybe .NET, Java, PHP, any PHP framework, you need to create a project. Now, what is a project? So basically, project is a logical grouping of Java code where you'll be having your Java code, where you'll be having your configurations, where you'll be having your dependencies and all those stuff. Again, we'll talk about that later. But yes, so we need a project here. So right click on your package explorer. There's an option of new, and you can see we're getting an option of Java project. Just click on that, Java project. Now it will ask you for a project name, and you can give any project name. That's okay, but it should be logical. I will use demo because since we are doing it the first code, let's name it demo. Or we can also say first demo since this is our first code. Now the latest version of Java is Java 1.8. Now let's say the current version of Java is Java 1.8. What if you only learn 1.7? Is that enough? Do we really need to learn 1.8? What do you think, Navneet? Do you really need Java 1.8 or 1.7 would be enough? Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. If you are using 1.7, of course, you will not be able to use 1.8 features. But is it that a major update? Because see, when Java 1.7 was introduced, people took lots of time to move 1.7. They were happy with 1.6, and that was okay at that time. Even if you are using 1.7 and I mean, industry is working on 1.7 or you're working on 1.6, that's fine. But the problem with Java 8 is it has changed everything. In fact, not everything, but most of the thing in Java now it is changed. So let's say if you have learned 1.7 and suddenly if someone says, hey, learn 1.8, and if you think, okay, that's easy, you know 1.7, you can learn 1.8 now. That's not the case. 1.8 is very different from 1.7. So knowing 1.8 now will be an added advantage. In fact, 1.8 was introduced in year 2014. It took almost 3 years for everyone to understand the true power of Java 8. But we are learning Java 1.8 here, and so don't worry. So that will be the end of the course topic, what Java 1.8 features. But you will be amazed. So if you have any friends, if you have any of your partner who is working on Java, and they might be working on 1.7, just show them 1.8 features. They will be amazed as well. Anyway, so 1.8 is very, very, very different from 1.7. Now, why they went for 1.8? The reason was the current generation. We are living in information age, which simply means that we are generating huge amount of data. When I say huge, actually it is very, very huge. We are generating TBs of data per day. The problem is not we are generating the data. The problem is we are generating it so fast and in a variety of way, it is very difficult to process it. So to process that data, we need some language, right? So initially people used to work with Java, but Java was having some shortcomings. It was having some drawbacks. No, you cannot say drawbacks. It was having some limitations. So there was an alternative for Java called as Scala. I don't know if you have heard about Scala. Anyone heard about Scala here? So yeah, the alternative for Java is Scala. So if you have huge amount of data and if you want to process that data, instead of using Java, we can use Scala. In fact, Twitter, you know about Twitter, right? Twitter website. So in which language it is built? Like Facebook was built on PHP, Twitter was built on what? Which language? Exactly, it was built on Ruby. So Twitter was built on Ruby language. But later they felt, Ruby is good, but since we are getting lots of tweets per day, we are not able to manage it. So the backend part of Twitter, now they moved from Ruby to Scala. So instead of shifting from Ruby to Java, they moved from Ruby to Scala. The reason, Scala is very powerful in terms of processing data. So all Java developers, they were moving to Scala. In fact, I was moving to Scala. So when I got to know about Java that everyone is moving to Scala, even I tried to move to Scala. And then this Java community, they felt, since everyone is moving to Scala, that means we need to add some features in Java as well. So what they did, they copied the concepts from Scala and they have introduced in Java 1.8. And that's why Java 1.8 is very important, because this is for in the world of big data, in the world of Hadoop, we need Java 8 concepts. Okay, everyone? Yes, Hemant? Okay, perfect. So we'll select Java SE 1.8 version here, then click on next. Nothing much here, click on finish. Okay, now this is your first project. Yeah, before continuing, I would just want to ask everyone, Aditya, Hemant, Hussein, Pooja, and Navneet. You have done programming before, right? At least one programming, C, C++? Any of them? Any of one? So which one you have seen, Aditya? C++. Okay, Lakshmi, C, and oops. Okay, so basically, Pooja, it's your name is Lakshmi or Pooja or Poo. So Hemant has done C. Navneet is C and C++. Okay, so when your friends calls you, I mean they when they refer your name, what they say instead of saying, okay, I can call you Pooja, right? Okay, perfect. And what about you, Hussein? How do you pronounce your name? It's Hussein, right? Okay, perfect. So yeah, so since you have learned the languages before, the C and C++ language. Okay, let's go ahead now. So now let's write the first code. Before writing, let me just expand this JRE system library. Now, what is JRE? We have talked about JDK. We have talked about JVM. What is this? What is JRE? So, what is JDK? Is JDK stands for Java Development Kit. JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine, and JRE stands for Java Runtime Environment. Oh, that's perfect, Pooja. But why do we need a JRE when you have this too? Now, the answer is very simple. Let's say if you want to, okay. See, JDK you need so that you can compile the code. But JVM you need to run the code. But while running the code, you may need some extra files. You need an environment where you can actually run the code. So JVM is a machine where you can run the code. That code will need some extra files, some system inbuilt classes, some resources. That resources will be coming from JRE. In fact, JVM is a part of JRE. So JRE is a big software in that you have a small JVM. Okay, perfect. Now let's go back there. So you can see we got JRE here, and the version of JRE is 1.8. Now let's go for the SRC. So if you want to write any code, this is the folder where you can create your Java files. Just right click there, click on new, and you have to create your first class. Again, we'll talk about class afterwards, but when you want to create a new file in Java, you have to get a new class. We will name this class as demo, or you can say our greet, and we'll click on, let's just take this thing which is public static void main. Why do we need it? That we'll see later. But let's say we are writing this code. Okay, the font is very small now. Let me just change the font size. Now this is tricky in Eclipse. We have to just to change your font size, you have to do lots of circles. So let's click on Eclipse here. Then go to preference. Once you go to preference, just go to general. In that, go to appearance, go to color and fonts. Then in this, click on basic. Then we have text font. Click on edit, and you can see you can set this font size as 13 here, and click on OK, close, and OK. If you're wondering how will you remember all these things, that's fine. All these sessions are getting recorded. It will be available for you for offline for the sessions, for the offline watch. Now this is the place. So this is the place where you have to actually type your code. We will talk about this later, but time being, just remember this is the place where you have to actually write where we have to write our code. Now what we want to do here is we just need to print hello world, right? So what I will do is I will simply say system.out.println. Again, I will talk about this later, why we need that. And this will print hello world. Let's see if everything is working or not. I have written the code. We have not seen the code yet, why we write code in this way, but just imagine we have that code there. Let's right click and we'll say run as. You can see there's an option of run as Java application. You can see in the console window we got the output as hello world. So congrats, yay, this is the first, this is our first output. Come on, be excited. Okay. Now Hemant, you are the only one remaining there. Okay, so this is our first code here, right? But let's try to understand what we have done. So just to understand this, what we'll do is we'll say select all and delete. Let's type that code once again from scratch. Now let's think about it. What we want to do here is we just want to print hello world, right? So simply type hello world. That's it. This is what we wanted anyway, right? We wanted hello world. So just say hello and world. Our job is done. But not exactly. The thing is, we got the output in the editor because this is your editor area, right? We got the output on the editor. Where we want the output is this place, which is console. First of all, let me just clear the console here. Right click and clear. So I want to shift this output in this console. If I run this code, you can also run by clicking here. You can say it will give you error. So what you have to do is, whenever you use any string, so this is a normal sentence, right? A string. So whenever you have a normal sentence, a character string, you can simply use double quotes there to specify that we are using a string. String basically means normal sentence. So whenever you want to use string, we need to use double quotes. Now what I want to do with this hello world, I want to print this, right? So to print this, we have to use a method called as print. Now why do we need a method? Now since we are working on Java platform, how Java exactly works is, Java uses a concept of object-oriented programming system. In short, it is called as OOPS. Now what is OOPS? So OOPS is basically a concept which is very famous, which simply says, if you want to build something, always focus on object. So whatever you want to do, you have to do with the help of object. Example, if you want to call someone, we need a phone, right? And your phone becomes an object. Let's say if you want to send a mail, you need a laptop where you can send, where you can type your mail, right? So that laptop becomes an object. If you want to eat something, you need ice cream, right? So for that, again, you need an object. So your ice cream is an object here. Is it the wrong time of talking about ice creams? Uh, my bad. So yeah, whenever you want something, basically you need an object, right? Now every object needs, or every object has two things. One, what object knows, and second, what object does. Let me just write those steps here. Before that, let me just connect my charger. My battery will die soon. Okay, so we have to focus on something called as object. Now, object knows something and object does something. Now, when I say object knows something, what it means? Let's talk about humans. We are all objects, right? So we know something and we do something, right? Example, since I'm knowing something, that's why I'm saying something here, right? So we know something and we do something. In the same way, object knows something and object does something. Now when I say object knows something, I'm talking about the variables. So object knows something with the help of variables, and object does something. So if you are coming from C or C++ background, you might have heard about functions. So object knows with the help of variables and object does with the help of functions. So variable defines what you know and function defines what you do. Example, I'm talking, that's my function. I know Java because in my brain I have these concepts. I know about what's my name, I know about where I stay, I know about who is my favorite actor, I know about uh, I know today's date. Everything is stored in my variables, in my brain variables. But I can talk, that's my function. I can think, that's my function. I can play a game, that's my functions. So whenever I'm doing something with the help of functions. Now that functions or those functions in Java are called as methods. So instead of using functions, we'll be using methods. Okay, everyone? Now, and trust me, this is the only thing which is very important in Java. You just have to think in object-oriented way. Now, since you already know C programming and C++, the best way to learn Java is think everything is object and start your work. Okay, so when you say object knows something, it knows something with the help of variables. When you say object does something, it does something with the help of methods. Now here, if I go back to my Eclipse, for sure, if you want to perform some operation, we have to do something, right? And that do something means you have to use a method. So we have an inbuilt method in Java called as print. So print is a method which can print hello world. But hold on, method belongs to what? Method belongs to object, right? That means whenever you want to use any method, we need to use the object name as well. So whenever you want to use a method, we need an object. Example, Navneet, if I say I'm calling someone, What is there with me? What you have assumed? There's an object in my hand, right? What is that object? Exactly, right? In the same way, if you want to print something that's a method, it should belong to an object. Now that object which is pre-built is out object. So in case if you want to use a method, we need to use an object. And how do you specify a relationship between an object and a method? By using this dot operator. This dot specifies that this print belongs to out object. So out is an object which is inbuilt. You don't have to create out object. Make sense? Okay. Now the problem is, when I say this object is created somewhere, where it is created. So we have one more concept of something called as class. Right? Okay. Before going for class, let me just tell you something. Uh, Whenever you want to build a building, let's say if you want to build a tower of 25 floors, the first thing you will create is a blueprint, right? I mean, you might know about this architects, this the what do you say, construction architects. What they do, what they have is the blueprint, right? So whenever there is a new tower, you need a blueprint for that, right? So without blueprint, you cannot build any building or any tower. In the same way, if you want to create an object, you need a blueprint for that, and that blueprint is your class. So if you want to create an object, you need a class. Okay, so let me just target once again here. Let me just target you, Hussein. Which phone you use? Okay, you're using iPhone 6s. That's perfect. What about you, Aditya? Don't tell me we have all iPhone users here. Okay, Samsung. Which one? Okay, Samsung 6 S6 Edge. So when you have all these company brands, they all get manufactured in China, right? So let's say if you have a friend who is not using this high-end phones, let's say if using a low-end phone, and of course all the low-end phones are also built in China. So we normally refer those items as Chinese items, right? But then these people say, even iPhone is made in China, right? And we feel so bad, after paying so much of money, we still they still say our phone is Chinese phone. But Apple is smart. Apple is very, very smart. In fact, when you talk about Samsung phone, even those phones are built in China. Even what about the other phone, the Motorola phones? They are even built in China. What about you? Your phone, Pooja? Which phone you use? Okay, you're using iPhone 7. Okay, so all are using high-end phones here. Anyway, so I'm the only poor guy here. I'm using Moto G3. Okay, so yeah, so so we talk about Moto G3. Not only you're also using Moto, that's perfect. It's an awesome phone, right? So when you talk about Moto G phone, even those are built in China. But do you think they are designed in China? The actual designing is done in that particular country, right? Example, if you talk about Apple or iPhones, they are designed in California, and they only get assembled in China. They get what you say, they create those parts in China, but the actual designing is done in their own country. Think about Nokia phones. It was designed in Korea, and is it Korea? Korea, right? and it is assembled in China. Oh, Finland, yeah. Nokia is Finland and Samsung is Korea. So all these phones are designed in their particular country in the same way, but all they write is made in China, right? But iPhone or Apple people are smart. When you see the back cover of Apple, they say designed in California and assembled in China so that their users will not feel bad. You can check your back panel. So it says designed in California and assembled in China. Now, reason for this is designing is something which is important than making it. If making is more important, then China would have been a technical technology power, superpower compared to US, right? So designing is very important. So US does all the designing thing, and China they just build it. So that means if you want to create an object, you have to first design it. And the class is something where you will design stuff. So in class you will design it, and and object is something which we normally use. So when we use an iPhone or when we use a Samsung phone, we have an object in our hand. Now that object is created because there was a design. Oh, is it the brain and the muscles? Ah, you can say that. You can say that. Yeah. So your class is a blueprint for the object. So if you want to understand the behavior of an object, you have to talk about a class. So class defines the behavior of an object. So what an object knows is defined by the class. What object does is defined by the class. So when I say this object is inbuilt, it must be stored somewhere, right? So this out object is stored somewhere, and that somewhere is your system class. So system is a class where you have your out object stored. So print is a method which belongs to out object, and out object belongs to system. Make sense, everyone? Okay, perfect. Now what we need here is, let's say if I want to type 5 lines, if I have 5 lines here. Oh, by the way, we have to put semicolon at the end because in Java you have to end your statements with semicolon. Now it may happen that you have multiple statements here. So if you have multiple statement, what is the point of execution? From where the execution will start? Now if you remember C and C++ language, we always start the execution from the main function, right? So main is the function where you start your execution. Okay, perfect. Now in this main, what you have to define is, okay, so you have to use a main function. So main function act like a starting point. Are we done here? Okay, not exactly. The problem is, whenever you use a main function, we have to follow a specific syntax. Now, why we need that particular syntax is because, let's say, let me just target you, Hemant. Hemant, if I ask you, let's say we are sitting in a classroom or we are sitting in an office, and if I need a pen, so I need a pen from you, Hemant. So, and imagine in our office we don't have any pen. You have to buy that. What you will do if I ask you, hey Hemant, I need a pen, what you will do? Okay, so you will get it from the outside, right? You will go out, you will buy the pen. Okay, but let's be selfish here, Hemant. You need money for that, right? Of course, you will not spend from your pocket. You will ask me the money. You will say, "Hey, Naveen, give me the money. I will get a pen for you." So Main is also like that person. Main says, "Hey, I will do your work, but give me some parameters, right? Give me some parameters. If you want to make me work, you need to pass some parameters." Now that parameter, let's say that parameters or arguments are stored inside args, args. Now in Java, whenever you want to use any variable, first you have to declare the variable. Now there are different ways of declaring it. What I will do is I will simply say string args. Again, I will explain this later, why this square bracket there and why we have string there, that we'll discuss later. But remember the signature. Main says I will do your work, but give me the arguments. If you give me the arguments, I will work for you. But in return, Hemant, what I will expect from you? Oh, audio not clear? What's going on? Is it sound is breaking somewhere? Okay, there might be some issue on your side, Nonit. Okay, okay, perfect. Yeah. So we have. So yeah. So Hemant, if I give you a money, what I can expect from you? What I want from you? Yeah. So work should be done, and in return, I want. So yeah, work should be done. Plus, I want a pen also, right? So you have to go out, you have to buy a pen and give it to me. So if I'm expecting something from you, you have to return that. So you as a method, you as a main method, Hemant, you have to return a pen. So if I ask you for the pen, you have to return a pen. If I ask you for a page, you have to return a page. If I ask you for a number, you have to return a number. But let's say if I don't want anything in return, I just want to make the work done, I will say void. Void means I'm not expecting anything from you. Just complete your work and that's it. So what we are saying is, hey main, just print this thing for me. I'm not expecting anything from you in return. Just complete that work. Got the idea, everyone? Okay, so this is your main function. I mean main method. This is your return type. I'm not expecting anything here. And this is your argument. So if you want to pass any values, this is where you can pass the values. Now even this will not work. Now why it will not work is because main is a method, right everyone? That means to use a method or to call a method, what we need is the object. So whenever you want to use a method, we need an object. So example, to work with this print, we wanted an object which is out. Okay, that's perfect. So to use this print, we wanted object which is out. But the problem is, this is main, right? To work with main, we need an object. We need an object using which you can call main. So that means in order to call main, we need object. Right, everyone? In order to work with main, we need object. And to create an object, we have to start the execution. So this is a confusion here. The confusion is execution starts from main. To call main, we need object, and to create object we need to start the execution. Okay, don't you think we are into a deadlock now? We cannot start the execution before calling main. We cannot call a main method before creating the object. We cannot create an object before even starting the execution. That's a deadlock, right, everyone? Now, how do you solve this deadlock? The only way to solve this deadlock is by using a keyword here called as static. Again, we'll talk about static in detail later, but time and remember, whenever you write static before your method, it means you don't need an object to call that. If you make your method static, you don't need an object to call that. Next. Okay, that's it. That's perfect. That's everything is working here. But still we got an error. Now Java is purely object-oriented programming language, which means if you want to do anything in Java, it should be a part of a class. It should itself should be a design. If you want to do something in Java, you have to design it. And by default, we all are artists. So developers are artists because we design stuff. Okay, let's design a class. Now, this class, how to design a class? Use a keyword class, and then you have to mention the name of the class. The name of the class will be your file name, which is great. That's it. You have to make sure that this code is a part of your class. And now let's simply say controls, give a tab so that it will be a proper indented. And that's it. There's no errors now. Let's run this. And we got an error. Now the error, so every time you get an error, it's a point where you can learn something new. So don't be sad about your errors. Errors are part of your life now. Okay, so you can see it says whenever you want to use main, this is the syntax you have to follow. And we are missing something here. We are missing public. So that means we have to write public here. Now, why do we need public there? The reason? You want to access this code from anywhere. And if you make it public, you can access it from anywhere. Again, we'll talk in detail about this keyword public, but time being we want to call it from anywhere. That's why we have to use public. And now let's run, and you can see we got the output as hello world. Simple, everyone. Okay, so for first 2 to 3 lectures we'll be going a bit slow, just so that everyone will be on the same page. After 1 week we'll be getting a good pace, so that so try to get the pace as well, guys. I know you're not on the same level in terms of programming, but try to practice. You have to make sure that you come on the same level so that we can go in a good pace. So let me just go for a quick recap what we have done today. Okay, so Java is platform independent, right? So Java follows the concept of VORA, which is write once and run anywhere. Now JVM is there on every OS, Windows, Mac, Ubuntu, and Solaris. So when you want to write a Java code, you need editor, you need JDK, you need a console to run your output, which you can use command prompt. Otherwise, instead of using all these different softwares, we can use one particular software, which is your IDE. Now you can use any IDE. You can use IntelliJ, you can use Eclipse, you can use NetBeans. right? So the best one which we are going for is Eclipse. The only problem with IntelliJ is you have to pay for that, and it's not that difficult. Once you know one IDE, it is very easy to learn other one. So we got this thing. Let's go back to our code. In order to print your first code, in fact, in order to print anything, you need a method using which you can print. So print is a method which belongs to out object, and out object belongs to system class. To run this, we need a main method. We have to pass the string arguments. It will not return anything. The method should be static is because we are not creating any object to call main. It should be public. So any questions, anyone, from today's session? It's easy, right? Great. In fact, Java is very easy. It's just that you should know the proper flow, how to learn that. So let me know your feedback. So you can mail me your feedback about this session, what's going good, what's not going good, so that we can customize it. And feedbacks are always helpful. So send me the feedback. You can use Telusko Training at Telusko Training, or you can also send me a personal on my email ID, which is navin2020. But do send the feedback. By tomorrow, I'll be sending you the theory video for the next session. Watch the theory video, and then we'll see on Thursday. Okay, then that's it.